an incident had taken place in the Muslim Ummah, which led to basically the fitnas and the trials and the tribulations to enter into the lands of Islam, into the Islamic Empire, especially amongst the next generation after the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'een. And many of you are probably familiar with what I am already talking to you about. This is something that I shared with you roughly about 11 months ago, if I'm not mistaken. And this was during the time of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Now, today's talk is not in regards to a new companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but today's talk is in regards to revisiting the incidents or the lessons that we can extract from the incident that had taken place 1400 years ago roughly, which was the assassination and the demise of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And I'm not going to start with the life of Umar from the beginning when he accepted Islam and etc., because the series is not in regards to who? Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu. First and foremost, he radiallahu anhu knew that he's going to pass away as a martyr, as a shaheed. And the proof of that is that upon an occasion, the Prophet ﷺ, Abu Bakr and Umar, both of them were with him, and all three of them were standing upon the mountain of Uhud in Madinatul Munawwarah. Those of you who have been to Medina and you have seen the mountain of Uhud, it's not a small mountain, it's a few kilometers long. So that mountain started to shake, and the Prophet ﷺ struck it with his feet, and he says to the mountain, that, "O mountain, stop shaking. Do you not know that a prophet, Siddiq, meaning Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, and a shaheed is upon you?" So Umar radiallahu anhu knew that he's not going to die a natural death, but rather he will be granted martyrdom. Now, in order to be granted martyrdom, during his khilafah, during his leadership, some of the Sahabas and some of his companions were telling him that your dua is that, "O Umar, you say that, O Allah, grant me martyrdom in your path, but make my death and my martyrdom in Medina." How is that possible? If you want to pass away as a shaheed, you have to go outside of Medina where the battles are taking place. There's no one who's going to come and fight you in Madinatul Munawwarah, O Umar. No one is going to come you and assassinate you here. So they were all waiting for this dua of Umar radiallahu anhu to be accepted, that how is it going to be accepted? You see, at the time of Umar, when Islam spread throughout the Roman Empire and the Persian Empire especially, and when Islam became the superpower of the world, and it was on its way to become the superpower of the world during the time of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu. So from Persia, the Sahaba radiallahu anhum and the Islamic government at that time, they would bring skilled workers who were good in terms of crafting and in terms of handiwork. And they used to invent and create certain objects for the Muslims. And the Muslims used to pay this worker, right? Of course, it's like the concept of coming into another country with a worker's visa. You get the job done, you're paid, you pay the taxes, you go back to your country. So Mughira ibn Shu'bah radiyallahu anhu had a slave from Persia. And this servant and this slave of his, even though he's a slave, he's not supposed to be paid because he's owned by someone. But the Sahaba radiallahu anhum were so merciful that Mughira ibn Shu'bah, who owns the slave, said to him from Persia that, "I will give you 4 silver coins every day, and in return you have permission to do business and sell and do whatever it is that you want to do. But you have to pay these 4 silver coins in tax." So this slave by the name of Abu Lu'lu'ah Fayruz, who was a fire worshipper living in Medina at that time and paying his taxes and his due and etc., who was on a worker's visa, sort of to say, he complained to Umar that Mughira is charging me extra than what I'm supposed to be paying. Umar radiallahu anhu said to him, okay, so what is it that you do? And Umar radiallahu anhu investigated, and they found out that he had lied when he filed the court case. And Umar radiallahu anhu concluded that in return you're supposed to be paying even more than 4 silver coins. You're supposed to be paying even more. So he said to Umar that, oh Umar, that your justice has spread to everyone, because it was a known fact that even the Jews, they felt comfortable in the court of Umar radiallahu anhu. Right? Even the non-Muslims were content with the decisions of Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And he said to Umar that your justice has spread to everyone but except me. And as he was walking away, Umar radiallahu anhu said to him that he used to craft and make hand mills and daggers and etc. He said to him, can you make me a hand mill or a mill? He said to Umar a certain way, in a strange way, that, oh Umar, I will make you such a mill which will be the talk of the town, which will become the talk of the town. And he walked away. Ali radiallahu anhu said to him, oh Amirul Mu'mineen, why are you letting him get away? He just threatened you in front of everyone. Umar radiallahu anhu said, yakfinahu Allah, that Allah is sufficient for me. I don't need anyone's protection. He hasn't committed a crime yet. So what's there to punish him in regards to? Just let him be. So what if he threatened me? Allah is going to protect me. So he decided, because he had that grudge against Umar and the Muslims, that they took over my country and now they are on their way to become the world's leading superpower, and I am a fire worshipper, Zoroastrian, and the religion of my forefathers has now been abandoned by many of my own family members. So he had this grudge against Umar ibn al-Khattab. So he decided that he will make a double-edged dagger or a small sword, and he poisoned it overnight. And during the morning time when Umar radiallahu anhu was leading salah, he went, it was dark, no one is able to see anyone, stabbed Umar radiallahu anhu. And on his way, as he was exiting from the masjid, he stabbed 13 other congregants in the masjid, 7 of them who passed away, and Umar radiallahu anhu was the 8th one who passed away, and 6 of them survived the wound. Now, the poison had spread in the body of Umar radiallahu anhu, and the Sahaba radiallahu anhum were able to see the intestines, sort of to say. They were able to see the inside of Umar radiallahu anhu's body. Umar radiallahu anhu, when he was in his deathbed, he said that, give me some milk and some water to drink. When he started to drink it, it would exit from the wound. So that is when they all realized that there's no way that he's going to survive this. And there's one point that I want to stress upon. And that point is that Miswar radiallahu anhu visited Umar when Umar was in his deathbed. And he was unconscious and he had fainted because of the wound and due to the severe loss of blood. He said to the other Sahaba that, how's Umar doing? They said, he is the way you see him. In other words, he's fainted. We don't know if he's alive or not. We don't know if he's going to wake up or not. Miswar radiallahu anhu said that, I know this man Umar. Let's see if he's alive or not. There's nothing more important to him than salah. So the mu'adhin, or the one who used to announce about the salah time, he said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen as-salah. Oh Amir al-Mu'mineen, salah. And he woke up. Immediately he woke up. When the time for salat had entered, with that wound, Umar radiallahu anhu performed salah. With that wound. He had all of the excuses in the world not to perform salah. Right? He's on his deathbed, a few hours away or maybe a few minutes away from his death. Right? The blood is still dripping from his wound. It's not stopping. He's unable to drink or eat anything. Whatever he was drinking was exiting from the wound. But still, he performed his salah. Unfortunately, today, we're the total opposite. There's no need for us to play the comparison game, how we are in comparison to the sincerity of the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'een. Now, Umar radiallahu anhu had reported that upon an occasion, he had a dream. And in his dream, a rooster had come and pecked him 3 times. So the next morning he had told the Sahaba radiallahu anhum that I'm interpreting this dream to mean that the time for my martyrdom has drawn close and that the time for me to depart from you has drawn close. This is what the meaning of the dream is. And also, one of the youngsters and many other companions of Umar and of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they all would visit Umar. And he radiallahu anhu, to the vast majority of them, said this same statement. They were praising him, that, oh Umar, you're this and you're that. You were guaranteed Jannah. You had accepted Islam initially. You were present with the Prophet ﷺ from the beginning till the end. You spread Islam throughout the entire region and etc. They were praising him. And Umar radiallahu anhu was the one who came out with the system, who invented the system of Diwan, of the register, right, of the government logbook. It was sort of like the Google Drive of that time, in which they had every document, every information about everyone's date of birth, date of death, properties, and etc. was logged in that register book. He was the one who formally introduced the way and the method to get rid of poverty, which today many of the countries have adapted in terms of child tax credit, right? And in terms of those who need financial aid and they apply and they fill out the application, and then the government assesses their financial situation and gives them money and etc. And Umar radiallahu anhu had said that if Allah grants me life and He gives me the ability to live until next year, He had guaranteed that by next year, in the entire ummah, there will not be a single widow who will need another man to provide for her. I, Umar, will be sufficient for them, for all of them. In other words, from the treasury, I, Umar radiallahu anhu, will provide for all of them. He was the one who invented, basically, you know, in the modern world, the systematic arrangement that we all see in the countries. It was mainly invented, whether it was food stamp and etc., by Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Now, Umar radiallahu anhu used to have a ring. And in that ring, he had engraved as a reminder, "Kafa bil mawti wa'iza ya Umar," that, oh Umar, death is enough for you as an advisor. Death is enough for you as an advisor. Now, how many times during the day, those of us who wear watch, or those of us who wear a ring, how many times during the day do you look at your watch? How many times during the day do you look at your ring and you play with it and you move it around? You cannot even count. So Umar radiallahu anhu had engraved that he's going to depart from this world one day in his ring. So whenever he would move his ring around or play with it, he would remember death. So therefore, the decisions that he would make were based upon the hereafter. Whenever the thought of, for example, not to pray the salat would come in his mind, I'm not saying he used to get those thoughts, but I'm just comparing our life compared to his life. Whenever, for example, the thought of not praying salat would come into his mind, he would remember that death is inevitable, so therefore I rather pray now rather than being held accountable in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When he radiallahu anhu became the Khalifa, he said that nothing is permissible for me from the treasury except for 2 clothes. And these 2 clothes are my salary. Not 150,000 a year, not 500,000 or 1 million a year. He said, the first cloth that I will take from the treasury is for the cold season, and the second one is for the dry season, for summer. And to the extent that whenever these clothes of his would require stitching, he would stitch him and patch him. Not that he would throw them away and then from the treasury take another pair of cloth a month or 2 or a year later. No. This was who? Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu, ready to grant his service to the Muslims. And he also said that the sustenance of my family will be equal to the sustenance of an average man of Quraysh. Just because it's my family, the family of the Khalifa, of the President, it does not mean that they are supposed to receive a high protocol. I'm an average man, my family is also that of an average. This was who? Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu. When the Muslims were introduced, when the Arabs were introduced, these special desserts and the dishes that were there in Persia at that time, when they went into Persia and the Muslims became the superpower, they introduced a dessert which sort of resembled in today's time the faluda, right? So when the Persians explained it to the Sahaba and to the Muslims that this dessert and this dish is only for those people who have a lot of money and who have influence in the society, this is not everyone's average dish. 1 in a million can afford it. So they presented it to Umar radiallahu anhu, and Umar radiallahu anhu denied it, and he said that the day this becomes the dish of the normal average Muslim, that's the day in which Umar will taste it. Subhanallah. Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Muawiyah radiallahu anhu narrates that as for Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he never desired the world, nor did the world desire him. But Umar radiallahu anhu was such that the world desired him and he did not desire the world. The world was just running after him, the money and the name and the fame and lands and conquests and etc. and success one after another, conquests one after another, were just after Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Now at the time of drought, the Muslims were going through a severe famine and a drought upon an occasion. Umar radiallahu anhu for a very long time ate only bread with oil. Bread with oil. And whatever food would be presented to him, he radiallahu anhu would donate it to the average Muslim. And he would say, what a bad leader would I be that if I eat to my fill while the Muslims are suffering from the drought. The day the Muslims are not suffering from this drought and this famine, that's the day in which I, Umar, will also eat. Or else bread and oil is what I will eat until I'm able to alleviate this drought. And he ate it for so long that the narrations have narrated that the skin color of his changed totally. Imagine just eating oil and bread, and that too 1400 years ago. This was Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And at the time of his deathbed, when he was passing away, his son Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu placed his father's head on his lap. Umar radiallahu anhu said, put my face on the ground, and he didn't listen to him. So he said to him, and he scolded him as a father. He scolded his son, Wayhak, do you not listen? I'm telling you to place my face on the ground. So he placed his father's face on the ground from his lap, and Umar radiallahu anhu started to rub his nose and his face on the sand or the dirt that was on the floor, and he is talking to himself saying that, oh Umar, you will be destroyed if Allah does not enshroud you in His mercy. Subhanallah, the one regarding whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the Quran, because of whom verses of the Quran were revealed. Regarding whom the Prophet ﷺ said, had there been a prophet after me, it would have been Umar. Regarding whom the Prophet ﷺ said that he will be my companion with Abu Bakr in Jannah. So when he radiallahu anhu passed away, right, they requested Aisha radiallahu anha that the wish of Umar was to be buried next to Abu Bakr and the Prophet ﷺ. So those of you who have seen the 3 graves, right, on social media, on the internet, the grave of Umar was actually prepared by Aisha for herself. She radiallahu anha said that when I die, when I pass away, I would like to be buried next to my husband and my father. But when Umar radiallahu anhu's request came, she said that the one who deserves this grave more than me, who is she? The wife of the Prophet ﷺ is Umar. So she radiallahu anha gave the permission for Umar radiallahu anhu to be buried over there. And Ali radiallahu anhu said at that occasion when he was buried that, "Oh Umar, I knew deep down that this grave would be you." Because so many times I heard the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam narrating stories to us that I, Abu Bakr and Umar went. I, Abu Bakr and Umar came. I, Abu Bakr and Umar. I, Abu Bakr and Umar. Me, Abu Bakr and Umar. So it was embedded in our heads that this grave has to be you, O Umar. So this was the legacy or the summary of the legacy of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu. The day when he passed away, or the day when the stabbing had taken place, it was towards the ending of Dhul Hijjah. So when the Muslims, they entered and they welcomed the new year, it was with the mourning and crying over the death of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, to the extent that many of them, they used to say that the greatest tragedy that has afflicted the ummah after the demise of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the assassination of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to follow the footsteps and the advices of the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum. Jazakumullah wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.